Is the government hiding a client list or anything that the Trump administration could release tonight?
No, there is no client list. There never has been a client list. A client list suggests that Jeffrey Epstein made a list of people to whom he trafficked women. What there is a redacted FBI affidavit from accusers. There are several of them from accusers that accuse that accuse various people of having improper sex. And that has been redacted. The names of the people accused have been blacked out. Now, of course, because I was the lawyer and I did only investigations, I know who all these people are. I could figure out, based on everything that I saw, who Mr. X is, Mr. Y is, and Mr. Z. I can tell you right now, none of them are public figures who are currently in office. Some of them were previously in office. Some of them are dead. But there is no client list. And the redactions could be undone if you go to court. So many of the things that are being suppressed by two judges in Manhattan. And they're doing it largely to protect the alleged accusers who are, in the view of the judges, victims, even though we don't know what their actual status is. But the judges have issued orders, which is why I can't disclose things I'd love to disclose, saying that you can't disclose this information. But Pam Bondi and the Justice Department and Donald Trump are not responsible for that. I don't know of any information that they could disclose that they haven't disclosed. Now, maybe there is some, but I'm simply not aware of it. And so I think it's important to place the blame where the blame deserves to be placed. The vast majority of people who are in the files, and I know them all, I've seen all the names, the vast majority of them have already been disclosed. They're in articles all over the world. They're in books that have been written. So if we got everything, you would be shocked how few names are there that haven't already been disclosed. The media hasn't, by the way, done a good enough job in finding the people who have been disclosed in the public record. So that's that list. Then there's the videotapes. People say there must be sex tapes. I know the whole story there. There is a videotape, maybe several videotapes. They came under the following circumstances. Before any of this happened, Epstein was robbed by one of his employees of money and of a licensed gun, and he called the Palm Beach police, and they installed video cameras, not in the bedrooms, but in the living room. And those video cameras recorded some people, but there's no sexual allegations there. So there's nothing to that. And then there's Tucker Carlson's absurd allegations about the Mossad. There I know it from very, very personal experience. Why? I was representing Jeffrey Epstein. I asked him about everything, including whether he had any contacts with intelligence agencies. If he had, he would have been dying to tell me that, because I could have used that to get him a better deal. If he had worked with the Mossad or the CIA, that would have been golden for me. But of course he said no. And then I checked it with my sources in Israel. Let me clear, I once represented the Mossad. When 5 Israeli Mossad agents were captured in Cyprus, the head of the Mossad asked me to represent them. I did. I got them out, and the Mossad sent me a congratulatory note. I'm friendly with many of the people who have been heads of the Mossad. I'm not going to tell you who my sources are, but I can tell you with absolute certainty he had no connections to Mossad. He only got connected to Israel very late in this, when he met Ehud Barak and he made business dealings with him. But there was no connection to Mossad. The reason that story generated is because his girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell's father, probably did have a connection to Mossad, Robert Maxwell, but it had nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein. And as far as the suicide is concerned, of course it was a suicide, but it was a suicide, I believe, assisted by jailers. It was not a suicide that he could have committed alone. I think the jailers had something to do with his cellmate being dismissed, with the cameras being turned off. So there are things that can be hidden, but there's no smoking gun here, and there's no fault on the part of this administration, as far as I can tell.
So Professor, we both know, look, the answer to why Carlson and these other guys are now using Epstein as an article of convenience is because it works. For them to say he's a Mossad agent, it's a great way to advance and keep relevant the anti-Zionist movement that's going on right now.
Sure.
I've never seen conservatives, you know, this Charlie Kirk thing that they just did, you know, it used to be puzzling to me why the evangelicals loved Israel so much until I understood the whole nature of the rapture and all this second passion and all this stuff. But now you've got this wing of conservatism that seems to be matching this wing of liberalism where they all hate Israel. So Tucker's riding that wave, and this is now an article of convenience for him with Epstein. But what I don't understand is why doesn't Bondi say what you just said? I get why the president doesn't want to own this, frankly. But why doesn't she say, it's not on me? What I had on my list is this FBI thing that's redacted that I thought I could get unredacted, but I can't. I got to go to court, and I'd have to fight it out with these two judges, and it's not going to be easy. Why doesn't she just say that?
Well, I think she should say it. There may be reasons why she can't say it because there are restrictions on what an attorney general can say about potentially pending cases. But I think there's enough that she could say. And I think it's true if she said that there are these judges. Now maybe the answer is she should go along with the media and make applications to the judges to unredact and to make these things public. And maybe your station should do the same thing and other stations, because I don't think this should be kept. As you know, from day one, I said everything should be disclosed. I waive all my rights of privacy. I waive all my rights of confidentiality. Anything. Please disclose everything, because I knew that disclosing everything would, of course, exculpate me. And they haven't. And so I'd like to see everything come out now. Now, here's one problem. So you have people who accuse other people. We don't know how many of those are true, how many of those are false. So if you're going to disclose the names of people accused, you also have to disclose information about the accusers. And the judges don't want to do that because they want to protect the victims. And that's right. And so you can't have it one way.
Professor Dershowitz, thank you very much. I wish everybody would just listen to you tonight and take it as fact, but we know this is just too tantalizing. You're going to get dismissed as an agent of AIPAC and of Israel, and, you know, it's all nonsense. But look, all we can do is tell them the truth. Thank you for putting out there from what you know. And again, I've talked to people who represented victims in this. I've talked to people who represent players in this. And I'm telling you, nobody has said anything different than what Dershowitz just said, just for whatever it's worth. Professor, thank you for being on. I appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
The professor's new book is called The Preventive State. And it is a really interesting look at what we should be focused on in terms of what government can do to violate our personal liberties. Hint, hint, it ain't about Epstein. Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.